We would like to ask Mr. Larry Hanson, Executive Director, Georgia Municipal Association, to join us.
Chief Goldfein, General Holmes, Chief Welch and Betty, Colonel Short, distinguished guests and friends, it's a real honor and a privilege to be here today and share comments about the life and legacy of W. Parker Greene with his family and so many friends, colleagues, associates, and leaders. As I look around this room, I see so many who knew and admired Parker for the great man that he was. He touched the lives of so many people in so many different ways, and to try and summarize his life and his deeds in a few moments is no easy task. When I think of words to describe Parker, many come to mind: father, friend, humble servant, mentor, patriot, leader, trustworthy, genuine, confidant, and father figure, just to name a few. Arriving in Valdosta in 1970, Parker immediately immersed himself in supporting Moody Air Force Base, or Moody Field, as he always called it, in ways that began small, but over time became larger than life. Along with his bride, the ever-lovely Dr. Lucy Greene, they became this community's greatest ambassadors, and together developed a reputation as the most giving, loving, caring couple, fully devoted to their passion of not just serving to support Moody, but to serve every airman, spouse, and child the Air Force sent Moody's way. I always enjoyed hearing Dr. Lucy share the stories of how she and Parker met, their courtship, how Parker was always such a dapper dresser, and of course we all came to see the two of them together, always impeccable in their dress and gracious and giving in their time, talent, and support for everything Moody. Dr. Lucy had a remarkable career of her own in education, touching the lives of many young people in our community and leaving a legacy of accomplishment as a teacher, a principal, and an administrator. Together with son Buck and daughter Sharon, they're a beautiful family and one that has blessed our community for the past nearly 50 years. I had the good fortune of meeting Parker in the late 1980s, and as my career with the city evolved, I really had the opportunity to get to know him and work closely with him from 1990 forward. He was a recognized, quiet leader in the community, and it quickly became apparent to me that Parker was involved in practically everything related to Moody Air Force Base. Parker maximized his volunteer service at that time with the Chamber of Commerce to develop relationships inside and outside the community to support the men and women of Moody. There was no job too big or too small for Parker to tackle, and he was always doing more than his share to make our community and Moody a better place. My father was career Air Force, and like many others who have served at Moody, chose to retire here, and Valdosta became my home. As a result, I had a real appreciation for Moody and for those who serve in the Air Force and serve our country. Later, as a young professional, I learned so much by watching and working with Parker. Rarely in life does one have the opportunity to serve with, learn from, and be influenced by such an incredible human being as Parker Greene. Parker's generosity and influence can be seen and felt in ways big and small, all across the Air Force and its ranks. Parker was a big man, larger than life in so many ways, but quiet and unassuming. He was a man of real presence when he walked in any room. He was humble and genuine, had a big heart and a big smile, was a man of few but meaningful words, and when he spoke, everyone listened. His words were always filled with truth, wisdom, and knowledge. Over his life, he developed a large circle of friends, an even larger circle of people that he influenced, and an enormously big influence on his community and on the Air Force. Parker's story is one of a man who walked the talk, who lived his life the right way, a man of strong faith, a believer in hard work, and a philosophy of selfless service that is unmatched by anyone I've ever known. I was fortunate to work with the late Mayor Jimmy Rainwater, who loved Moody and recognized its immense value to this community. Mayor Rainwater was mayor when Moody was placed on the BRAC list in 1991. I was with Mayor Rainwater when he received the call that Moody was on the list for closure. The next morning, he assembled a small group in his office to develop a strategy to save Moody, and the Moody Support Committee was born. And I see retired General Troy Talbert here in the audience, who was a major part of that group and helped lead that effort. Parker was part of that initial team to lead the effort. Quickly seeing Parker's gift of developing relationships and trust, he was given major work assignments and became the first and the only executive director of the Moody Support Committee. After that successful effort to save Moody, Parker's sole focus became to work with Air Force leaders to make Moody relevant in such a way that closure would never be a threat again. For 27 years, he did it in his trademark way of establishing trusting and lifelong relationships with those in leadership positions in the Air Force and in Congress. One of Parker's greatest gifts was that he treated everyone with respect and like they were a leader, which over time, as they became leaders, built a tremendous bond and a sense of trust and respect that's unlike anything I've ever seen. Parker's keen insight and knowledge he developed of the entire Air Force, its many missions, and all of its assets is the primary reason Moody exists today, recognized as a base that can and will excel to meet whatever need the Air Force has. It was Parker who had the vision to work with the Air Force leaders to diversify Moody's missions, to change its missions at various times, and to demonstrate Moody's willingness and capability to step up and serve with distinction in any way needed. Many of you were part of that process and share in the success of this base. One of Parker's greatest joys was to take anyone, on a tour of Moody and point with pride at all of its wonderful assets. An example of Parker's ability to serve the needs of the Air Force was already mentioned by General Holmes, and that was Moody bedding down the F-16s and the personnel from Homestead following the hurricane in the mid-90s. Many do not know that Parker led this effort, and this community filled warehouses with furniture and other necessities as families who lost everything came to Moody from Homestead. And he and A.D. Holt, who's also here today, told them to take whatever they needed as they arrived. This was Parker Greene. Do whatever is necessary to serve the men and women of the Air Force, to take care of them while they serve our country. Parker had the insight to support and influence Moody's change from a fighter base to a training base, recognizing at that time the Air Force's pilot shortage would make such a mission a safe one in advance of another BRAC. He worked with Air Force leaders to transition Moody to a composite wing with a combination of fighters and search and rescue forces. Later, Moody transitioned to ACC, and its strength became its multi-mission capabilities, which Parker helped to assemble. For over 25 years now, Moody personnel have been constant deployment in conflicts around the world with its arsenal of close air support, search and rescue forces, security forces, and the AGAL. This does not happen by chance, but by Parker's careful attention to understanding the Air Force's greatest needs and having the relationship and trust among leaders to meet such needs. General Goldfein and General Holmes, I'm happy to share with you later what Parker's plans were for Moody's future. We certainly don't want to let him down. To the point of relationships, I look across this crowd today and I can point to numerous Air Force leaders who relied on Parker, trusted Parker, and became not only professional colleagues, but personal friends and even beyond friends, the closest of advisors with lifelong relationships like family. I had the privilege to visit the Pentagon with Parker every year for nearly 25 years, and I was able to see firsthand the influence he had and the trust those in leadership had for him. One of Parker's unique gifts was the sincerity of a phrase he used in every meeting I ever attended with him. He would always ask, "What can we do for you?" It was his trademark, but it was spoken with sincerity from the bottom of his heart. Never once in all those meetings with multiple chiefs of staff and other high-ranking personnel did Parker ever take a single note. His relationships were about trust first, and he had the ability to commit whatever needed to be remembered to memory, and he shared it with those who needed to know and for the part they needed to play. This was one of the most remarkable and successful traits, to use the trust and knowledge he earned to make things happen while always remaining in the background, out of sight, with no expectation of credit or recognition. Parker had this magical personality, was a friend to everyone, and always focused on the people of the Air Force and how to make things better for them. He brought out the best in people and was the least self-centered person I've ever known. His standing allowed him unescorted access in the Pentagon, and it was always a remarkable experience to walk the halls with him. As word circulated around the building that Mr. Greene was there, employees would come out of every office to say hello and exchange greetings. But it was so much more than hello. It was genuine friendship, heartfelt thanks for whatever Parky and Dr. Lucy may have done, whether that be sending cashews and peanuts and pecans, delivering pimento cheese, helping to support a promotion, or staying in contact and knowing how the families and children were doing. I can't even begin to name all the great leaders, many who are here today, that considered Parker a true and trusted friend, and one they came to rely on, not just to support Moody and its needs, but to support the entire Air Force and the needs of all those who serve our country. I remember several years ago being in Washington with Parker for various meetings at the time that the Pope visited Congress. As part of our trips, we would always meet with Air Force leaders at the Pentagon, but we also had meetings with members of Georgia's congressional delegation. I am certain that had Parker been standing next to the Pope on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, someone in the crowd would have said, "Who's that with Parker Greene?" He was indeed a legendary figure in the nation's capital. Parker's influence not only with Air Force leaders, such as secretaries of the Air Force and chiefs of staff, but also with members of Congress from multiple states, governors and civilian leaders from other military communities. Georgia's senators and congressmen trusted and relied on Parker for support, guidance, and advice. He's helped not only Moody, but many other bases in Georgia in the Air Combat Command, and in fact, he supported all the branches of the military in many ways. Not only was he a charter member of the ACC Commanders Group, he remained a member until his passing. Because of Parker, I was honored to be appointed to the Commanders Group and served with him for the last 4 years. He was an institution among that group of civilian leaders, and all of ACC looked to Parker for guidance. Parker was also instrumental in the creation of the Chief of Staff's nationwide citizen support group in 2005, and he served on it from its inception. Every Air Force leader wanted the benefit of Parker's wisdom, knowledge, and influence. Likewise, in Georgia, every governor sought Parker's counsel and advice, and when they visited the Pentagon, they wanted Parker by their side. He served on the Georgia Military Affairs Committee beginning in 2000, and every state military committee created thereafter. Over the past 25 years, I had the privilege of working with Parker on a regular basis. In fact, after becoming city manager in 1995, there was rarely a week we did not visit, usually in person at City Hall. It was almost always one-on-one, with Parker sharing his keen insight and his ideas and briefing me on all that he and Dr. Lucy were doing. Never a note, but always comprehensive. I lost my father in 1987, and Parker filled a great void in my life. As I've shared with his family and many others over the years, Parker wasn't just a father figure to me, he was a father to me. Who better to have as a mentor than a man who was an unqualified success in life? He taught me so much by his example of the importance of preparation and hard work, of dedication, of vision, of relationship building, of trust, honesty, and integrity, and service above self. Over the many years, Parker and I, in our visits, we would naturally discuss work, but we also came to share our lives with each other. We would talk about our families, our work, our joys, the challenges we faced, and always about some current issue. But he always talked about the love of his life, Dr. Lucy, and when he did, his eyes would just sparkle. He wanted everyone to know the important role she played, not just in her self-proclaimed title of Administrative Assistant for Life, but in the tangible and giving way she served Moody personnel, in particular the spouses and children. If you could describe the perfect couple, where unconditional love and respect and support for one another combined with Southern charm and class and graciousness and happiness, well, you would be describing Dr. Lucy and Parker Greene. Over the years, I would often seek Parker's advice and counsel, sharing whatever challenge I faced, whether personal or professional, and always left with clear and sound advice. I know many of you shared this same relationship with him and always found Parker to be a patient listener, a caring and trusted advisor, always giving honest advice with a genuine commitment to help in any way possible. He had this unique ability to see inside a person and gently but firmly give counsel, guidance, and direction. There's no person that had a greater influence on my life than Parker Greene. Like he did for so many others, he saw things in me I didn't see in myself. And by the way he lived his life, he set an example for me and so many others to follow. Parker received numerous honors and accolades, far too many to mention here today. He was recipient in this community of the Boy Scouts of America Distinguished Citizen Award. I had the privilege of presenting him with the Valdosta State University Distinguished Public Official Award for his years of service to Moody and this community. In 2002, the portion of Bemis Road from Perimeter Road to here at Moody was renamed the W. Parker Greene Highway as part of a tribute to Parker, which included designating that occasion as W. Parker Greene Day in Valdosta. His awards from the Air Force have been mentioned, but what an amazing legacy to have the road to Moody named in your honor, the headquarters at Moody named in your honor, and a day in Valdosta named in your honor. A humble servant, Parker downplayed those awards, but we should all celebrate the contributions and the love he so generously gave that earned them. Today, we are gathered here to celebrate the life of a great man, a man who gave so much to so many, and touched so many lives, never asking for anything in return. A man who lived his life honorably and with great distinction. Nothing speaks louder or more powerful than a life of integrity. Parker Greene was a man of integrity and of great character. Character is built slowly over a lifetime. It's the sum of every right decision, every honest word, every noble thought, every heartfelt prayer, and every sincere action. It is forged by honorable work, and it's polished by generosity and humility. This describes Parker Greene. Today, it is, once again, W. Parker Greene Day, a day we celebrate proudly the life of a great man and say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson.